Alright, and hello and welcome to round 2 of the AMS Oz Formula 3 Development Series. Qualifying has just ticked over. We're at the famous Autodromo Enzo Dino Ferrari circuit. I believe that's how you pronounce it correctly anyway. And yes, we've just ticked over to qualifying. As you can see, Turmo out there on the circuit as well as a couple others. In fact, we've got 4 cars on circuit at the moment. As you can see, there is Wayne Whitmore on your screen, and behind him is River Whisper. And all these guys have 1 lap to set their, obviously, hopefully their personal best lap for race 1. But they've got 1 shot, and as we saw last season in, well, both the touring cars and in the rookies, where it's a 1 lap dash. We've seen some mixed up grids, and we've seen some fantastic qualifying efforts, and hopefully we see that once again tonight. And this Imola circuit, we've stayed in Italy, a little bit more difficult than Monza, well, in some aspects anyway, but very similar in others, where we've got a fairly long main straight followed by a few chicanes and a hairpin. Just trying to find the first driver out there on the circuit. There we go. Turmo, I believe, is the first one to start a time lap. So we'll follow him as he comes through the first chicane. Tamburello. Taking it quite well. Flat through turn 3. Now coming up to the Villeneuve chicane. Very easy to get this one wrong. A little bit tentative, but still quite smooth. Doesn't run too wide on the exit. 29.9 in the first split. Probably want a couple more tenths in there, but still, you don't want to wreck your lap by, or wreck your starting position by throwing it all away in this 1 lap. Don't run too wide there. The left-hander, very easy. A lot of this revamped Imola circuit now has the double sawtooth curves. And if you run over the first set of curves onto the second, with these very low Formula 3 cars, the car will sort of bottom out a little bit, and the car will try and spit you towards the outside, and it will slow you down. So you do want to use a little curb, but not too much, otherwise it will punish you quite a bit. In fact, the car behind Turmo catching him, or has caught him a little bit throughout this lap. Not sure who it is. So I've got Whitmore, purple middle sector, 34.4 compared to Turmo's 34.8, but Turmo 5 tenths faster in the first split. And Turmo bounced across the start-finish line, 45.5, so not too bad an effort for Turmo. He'll jump into provisional P1. And Whitmore, he's about to cross the line. Sam, 4.8 down. Looks like he had a spin in the final sector. And Whitmore, provisional first position, 45.2. And the fastest time we've seen by drivers in the server at the moment is a 43.5 by Brendan Ross. So still a couple seconds off that, Whitmore, but you don't want to throw your lap away, as we've seen a few drivers do, and end up having to start towards the back of the field. And I reckon this circuit's going to be fairly difficult to pass if the driver in front defends into the first chicane, so you don't want to wreck your qualifying lap up. And Line Mitch now coming out of the final double left-hander and approaching the line. He goes 5th with a 46.223. River Whisper and Turmo. Right, there's Sammy's parked on the side of the road. And it looks like River Whisper and Turmo might have binned it on their laps, because they're in the pits at the moment and they've done 2 sectors. Actually, no, sorry, that's my mistake. They actually have set a time. Don't know what's going on here. Just a bit out of it today. And we've had Luke Joyner jump up to P4 on a 46.2. That's actually his personal best from the entire weekend so far. He's doing another lap, but probably going back to the pits, and he's 8 tenths up in his own time. Another thing to obviously talk about with these cars is that there's no tyre blankets, so they start at just the ambient temperature, about 30 degrees, and on the first couple laps really, they're pretty cold, so drivers aren't going to get their best lap in. So it's all about maximising the grip they have, and the rear end in particular is quite slippery under power with the tyres not being up to temperature, especially on the outlap. And drivers were warned in the first race to really warm those tyres up before the start, because in the proper AMS Oz F3 series, in the first couple of rounds, I believe there was no formation lap. We had all kinds of carnage with drivers on very cold tyres going into turn 1. So with 3.5 minutes left now, we've got the big hitters out there on the circuit at the moment. We've got Brendan Ross, he's just exited the pits, as has the Southern sensation of Ricky Slick. You can see Brendan Ross trying to work heat into the front tyres there. Still got about half a lap to go before he starts his lap time. So yeah, no one on a time lap at the moment, so we'll stick with Brendan Ross. In fact, we'll jump on board, jump on top of the roll hoop and see how he navigates this 4.9 kilometre circuit. Coming out of Ravatza now. And with that chicane on the left, the old final chicane, that was Marianza Bassa. And now we've begun our lap heading into the Tamburello. On a break at that curve, just where Brendan Ross did. He takes it in second. Short shift to third, well, not very, but a little conservative, and then it's flat through turn 3 or turn 4 on the track map. Up to the Villeneuve chicane, he silly shifts to 6th, all the way down to 2nd. It's a little wide there. Still a very solid first sector, 29.77 tenths up on Whitmore. Nice exit out of Toza, coming up to Piratella. Makes it about 50 metres down to 3rd. Doesn't run too wide, so it's a very nice exit. Aqua Minerale now, very easy to lose the back end here. A little bit sideways, held on to it. Nice exit. Kept it nice and straight. Varianza Alta, 1.5 up. Uses a lot of curb on both apexes. It's a little bit wide, but still pretty decent run through the chicane. Now coming down to the last 2 real corners on the circuit. Makes it about 65-70 metres. Bit of curb, nice exit. Nice run through the final corner and good exit. This should be a fairly decent lap for Brendan Ross. He's finished strong. Gary Neville in the meantime has set a lap time of 46.2. Brendan Ross 42.9, so he sets his personal best, and what a time to do it. Ricky Slick as well, very close as well, 43.1, not too far away either. So a couple fantastic laps there from Slick and Ross, both setting personal bests when they needed to. And they've got a comfortable 2 seconds over, or 2.1 seconds over Whitmore and 2.5 over Termo. So a bit of field spread. This track isn't quite as easy as round 1. But hopefully you do see some improvement as the round goes on. So just to go through the grid order for race 1, we've got Brendan Ross on a pole position, followed by Ricky Slick, Wayne Whitmore in 3rd, Termo 4th, River Whisper 5th, Luke Joyner 6th, Live Mitch 7th, Gary Neville 8th, Sam, first event I believe here at Automobilista Australia, he will start 9th, and Glenn Miles will start 10th. So with it ticking over to the warm-up, we'll take a short break as I conduct the driver's briefing, but we shall be back shortly. And welcome back. Just conducted the driver's briefing. Got about 2 minutes, maybe just under 2 minutes left of the warm-up session. And it's time to talk just a little bit about this Imola circuit. Obviously there's championship points. Let's see if it does come up. No, it doesn't want to come up today. Mustn't have set the button, but it's actually there it is on your screen. There is the information. We've got 3 races tonight. Obviously, the final one being reverse grid. 11 laps, around 4.909 kilometre circuit. 17 corners. A couple of them aren't really corners. Obviously, the last 2 are those 2 little kinks that go to the right before the start-finish line, but really they're not corners. There's actually one also just after the start-finish line. They're a little gradual left. But it's a tricky little circuit. You've got to use the curves very well, and at the same time you don't want to lose the back end on those curves. And then Aqua Minerale is a place where we're going to see, I think, a couple spins, both on the exit at turn 10, where it goes just uphill, and between the two coming out of turn 9 as well. That's going to be a pretty tricky one for the drivers to navigate. But I'm looking forward to this one. Obviously, we do have a much bigger time gap between a few of the drivers. It's a little bit disappointing, but around a circuit like this is just much different to Monza. It's to be expected. But just try and find a driver out there on the circuit that we can just sort of follow. And obviously give guys another... Oh, no. Scratch that. We'll just about tick over to the race. So we'll just go and set everything up. So it's ticked over. Got the drivers just forming up onto the grid. And hopefully you don't have anybody overheating. So we've got about 10 seconds or so to go. And we have been joined in the commentary box. We've got first time commentator. We've got Josh Ben. I believe that's how you pronounce the last name.
Yes, thanks. No, pretty close. It's Ben. Just like the first name. I've got 2 first names. So.
And obviously, as we just start the formation lap, I'll go through the grid, and if we do get a bit of time, I will ask you about your background. Obviously, I do believe you have driven a very similar Formula 3 car, but anyway, we got
Thank you.
Brendan Ross. We'll start from pole position, followed by Ricky Slick, and then in third place they've got Wayne Whitmore, and in fourth Termo. On the third row of the grid, we've got River Whisper, followed by Luke Joyner. 7th place, we've got Lime Mitch in the, looks like a digital camo F3 car there. And then in 8th place, we've got Gary Neville, followed by Sam and Glenn Miles. So, it's got about half a lap to go. It is a fairly long lap for an F3 car, 1 minute 40 plus seconds. But just for a moment, just ask a little bit about you Josh, and how you got to be here, and obviously your experience in these things.
Well, look, just before I say anything, I was just watching the back of the pack there. Sam's hit the dirt on his warm-up lap. A bit of an interesting move to warm up some tyres. Haven't seen that one before. So,
obviously trying to add a bit of extra stick to his tyres there.
Yeah, haven't seen that one before. Let's see how it plays out throughout the race. If it works for him, I might have to start doing it myself.
Well, we have seen, obviously, Van Gisbergen in the wet or when it was drying with wet tyres on, drive onto the dirt to try and cool them down. But I wouldn't
very true.
wouldn't advise it in an F3 car where you need all the heat you can get in these tyres in the dry.
Absolutely. Look, yeah. So I've actually driven a Formula 3 car before in the New South Wales and National state slash national series. It was a combined event. I was racing in the state series, testing a new tyre actually. So a tyre that was actually less competitive than majority of the field. We're running a Giddy tyre. Everyone else is running the Hankook tyre, which is pretty much industry standard. But yeah, it was good fun. Drove a 2012, McGale, and yeah, we ended up winning the state series. So it was good results from the weekend. We had a great team behind me to back me. So thanks to them, I was able to get it up on pole. So and win it for the state series. Came fifth in the nationals.
That's a pretty solid effort, it has to be said. And
Cheers.
is that your first time driving that car as well?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. We rocked up that weekend in the car, so never driven it any time before that. It was a arrive and drive.
Well, it's a fair effort. Well, the drivers have formed up onto the grid. We are waiting quite a while for the lights, so perhaps someone just out of position. No, just ticked over. Cannot see the lights, but got 3, 4, 5, 6. And away we go. And it looked like Turmo got a very good start and he's already in front of Wayne Whitmore into third place. We've got 3 wide in the mid-pack there. We've got Ricky Slick having a look up the inside for the lead, but can't quite pull it off. So, into turn 3, we've got Brendan Ross, Ricky Slick, Turmo, Luke Joyner's up into 4th, Whitmore down to 5th. So he's had a shock. We've got a car off in the back. That's Lime Mitch. He sort of half-rolled there, but looks like he's okay. And Sam's moved up a couple spots, and we've got River Whisper running wide on that double sawtooth curb there, and that's dropped him down a couple spots.
It looked like Ricky Slick tried to put it straight back up the inside there, Shane Van Gisbergen style, but it didn't look like it pulled off for him.
Well, he's very similar, I reckon, in terms of aggression to Shane Van Gisbergen, so I guess he's the Southern American version of Shane Van Gisbergen. Is Ricky Slick. But is looking quite handy at the moment. And these front two, they've built up a 2.5 second gap already over Turmo, who's got Luke Joyner, who's had a very solid start, up 2 spots. And Wayne Whitmore now, he's going to be trying to recover for the remaining 10 laps of this race.
Lime Mitch is already making a recovery, catching right back up to 9th.
Yeah, after having that incident at the first chicane there, he's caught up fairly quickly to Glenn Miles in front of him, and he's got about 4 seconds to the next car beyond Glenn Miles.
Oh, that's a pretty big effort straight off the bat. That's like having a 20-second head start on it. Everyone else having a 20-second head start on him. So props to him already.
Yeah, he's recovering well. He's gotten past Glenn Miles now, and now he's setting after. Well, that said though, it doesn't look like Glenn Miles is giving the position up, but Mitch has the position for now. He's actually gained 8/10 in that final sector to Gary Neville in front. Back in the lead, it sort of stayed around about the same. Ricky Slick very aggressive on the curbs through the Villeneuve chicane there. Oh, and I've had Luke Joyner have a spin. He's had a spin there at the Villeneuve chicane, so checking the replay, he actually moved up into 3rd place. For a moment anyway. He was side by side with Turmo, and then eventually got it done through turn 3. So we'll just see what he did here at the Villeneuve chicane. Perhaps too much curb. I think he just he carried too much speed, put too much brake on as he was already a little bit sideways, and that sent him around. So that's dropped him down to 7th, which is a bit of a shame because he was looking quite quick. But,
long race to go yet, so we'll see what has to happen there.
But we still have a battle for 3rd though, because Whitmore now, he's now caught up to the back of Turmo. So that's a battle to look out for. Those two closest on the circuit at the moment. Although looking at the timing, I believe Lime Mitch may have even caught Gary Neville already. Just looking at the timing on the left-hand side there. About 4 tenths between those two. And Whitmore got a fairly decent exit out of Ravazza now. And with the slipstream these cars produce, he's looking like he might nip that position away.
By the looks of it, Whitmore's carrying about 8 k's faster down that straight. Obvious right now, he's come straight up the inside.
Yeah, these cars do carry a lot of slipstream. Oh, a little bit of contact under braking, but no major incident. But Whitmore now up into third place. Turmo doesn't want to give it up, trying to get him on a switchback through 3, but it's too fast for that. He's not going to be close enough into Villeneuve and decides to back out of it. So now, Turmo's really going to have to focus and just stick with Whitmore.
Sorry, big slide from Sam there. Nearly lost it. That was a great recovery there.
Just looks like he's flat spotted that front left as well, looking at the screen. So just cut back and have a look at the replay, see what he's done. Oh yeah, big slide out of the Villeneuve chicane. That would have raised his heart rate just a little bit. He's actually done a fantastic job. He's avoided a lot of the spins that drivers have had. He's up 4 spots. He didn't have a great qualifying. Oh, as he slides once again, coming out of Aqua Minerale.
I've been keeping my eye on Sam. That car looks like a bit of a handful, so it's credit to him for holding it on the track. It's I'm not too sure what's happening there, but
sideways again.
Wow. Yeah. It looks like he's got his work cut out for him there.
Yeah, he might have with the way he's been driving, he might have even overheated the rear tyres already. And
another big lock up there.
And he's struggling with it as he's a bit squirrely once again. Runs wide this time. I think the curb upset him a little bit there, and he's got River Whisper now closing in. And River Whisper will have a little bit of slipstream. He's not going to be close enough into the first chicane. And behind them, they've got Luke Joyner closing in. He's recovering, and he's got Lime Mitch also recovering. So Lime Mitch did get past Gary Neville. And 45.7 from Lime Mitch, so he's putting in some solid lap times at the moment. In fact, 45.7, that is the 3rd fastest time out on the racetrack. So quite a bit of pace in that thing. It's just a shame that he made that. Obviously, he didn't have a great qualifying session, and then obviously had that incident on the first lap at the first chicane there. See, oh, he runs wide, almost spins it to the right-hand side, but holds on. We've got a yellow out. That's Turmo, so Turmo's lost it.
That's a shame for Turmo. He was looking all right there for a little while. He's just weaving to get the grass off his tyres now.
Yeah, it looked like he lost the rear end in the mid-corner, and he got on the throttle while still a bit sideways and didn't correct it until too late. So that's what sent him around. Unfortunately for him, after his solid start, yeah, he's now down to 9th.
That's not a very hard thing to do on one of these cars either. These cars are... Once they start to let go, you know about it. You'll never be able to catch them. Oh, and as I say that, Lime Mitch facing the wrong way.
Try and cut to a replay in a moment. We've got Ricky Slick. He's got a very good run, very good slipstream. He might have a look into the first chicane here for the lead. He's going to go for it. Ross brakes early.
Wow.
And Slick,
Looked
bit
like
of a slide.
Big dive up the inside there.
He did brake very late. Was very committed and probably overcommitted now because Ross is very close. He's going to have a look. And they're going to go side by side through Villeneuve. Ross is going to have to do it the hard way around the outside. Big slide, but just saves it.
Wow. Competitive racing here. That's awesome.
Yeah, these two haven't a crack. Brendan Ross, I believe, I think it was in the supercars the other week. That's pretty much how his car handled all night. I don't know how he held on to it, but he's managed it. And these cars in particular are very difficult to save once they get past a certain point as well. So that's a pretty big save, and he's still within striking distance of Ricky Slick as well. And just going through the field once again. We've Looks a bit 3-car pack. Got Line Mitch, Gary Neville, and Turmo all line astern. So Turmo just in front of Gary Neville. And Line Mitch trying to recover for the second time in this race. It's a little bit wide there, Piratella. But he'll want to clear Gary Neville and get after Turmo. Oh, as we see, that's Turmo. He's gone around. I think he's just ran on the... once again, he's very easy to spin it coming out of Aqua Minerale there. Let's just see what he's done. Yeah, so he's just unsettled the rear end.
He's lit up the rears in the process too, which I personally wouldn't recommend, but...
it's only going to make things harder.
Yes. It's now about 7 seconds behind Neville.
Yeah, so that's going to be... The way he's been driving, it might be a bit difficult for him to recover that position.
Just as we're talking, just flip back into the battle for first, and Ross, a little bit of a slide through there. Look, he's right back on slick.
Yeah, I think that he would have carried a lot of slipstream coming out of that final Ravazza corner, and it's brought him a lot closer. It was about 8/10 towards the end of that last lap, but he's dragged it all the way back in.
Wow. He's carrying a little bit of understeer through the faster corner, so I don't know how that's affecting him through the remainder of the track. I've only been on board with him for just a moment, so...
These cars do have a little bit of aero wash, which is something that not too many people are familiar with, at least in sim racing. A lot of cars don't really model it, but these cars do have a little bit of it, and that means if you are behind another car through particularly fast corners, the front end of the car will want to wander a little bit, just understeer, because of the obviously disturbance of the air in front of them. So it's
that's fantastic work by the modders and the game developers there. That's something that a lot of sim racers don't really tend to experience, though. That's I'm nodding my head at that. That's pretty cool. I like that.
And we've got Ross. He's going to have a go. No, backs out of it. Ricky Slick very committed. Brakes late. Locks a little bit, or it looked like he locked a little bit of his tyre. But he holds on for now. Yeah, the Razor Studios have done a pretty solid effort in putting together a pretty decent game. There's a little bit of a lock up from Ricky Slick into the Villeneuve chicane there, and then runs wide as well. He still manages to maintain that gap to Ross behind. Another lock-up. I reckon that front left of his is starting to look a little bit like more like a 50-cent piece than a round racing tyre.
Brendan Ross getting on the power a little bit too early through that last turn there. He had a bit of a slide just on power.
Yeah, it is a characteristic of his driving style. Obviously, you wouldn't be familiar with him, but every time we see him in a few of the other series, not so much in the GT3s that we raced last night, but in other series, he likes to spit it up coming out of corners and gets it sideways quite often. We've seen it already tonight. He's had a decent run there through the Varianza Alta, and if he remains close enough, he should gain a little bit here into Ravazza, and then he'll be very close into turn 1. Or at least he'll be hoping so anyway. He's a little bit wide on the exit, but he has closed the gap to Ricky Slick in front. He is a chance into the first corner. It is a very long run. And these cars do have a big slipstream.
He's carrying about 6 Ks more right now. I think he'll have to send it.
And a little bit too far back. The side's against it, but Ricky Slick, another lock-up that has cost him a bit of time, and Brendan Ross is right behind him now. Has to actually lift through turn 3, which is normally flat. And has a look at Villeneuve, but it's not really an overtaking point. He's got to set it up for Tozer, the hairpin here. But he didn't have a good enough run, so Ricky Slick holds on for now. But Brendan Ross is coming. Ooh, and another massive slide coming out of the hairpin. Just scrolling through the back. Oh, we've got Sam, just as I cut to him. He's had a massive slide, and around he goes at the first chicane. It looked like he was going to save it for a moment, but eventually his tyres said, no, you're going around, son. And that's
what a recovery from Lime Mitch. He's coming into 6th place.
And there it is.
That's unreal.
Lime Mitch just nips it. And he's trying to... Oh, they both run wide there, Lime Mitch and Sam. So Lime Mitch has been very quick. Instead of, 45.9, which is one of the quicker laps, 4th quickest lap of the race so far. But, as you see Sam go around again, I think his rear tyres just going over the edge a little bit, and they're overheating, and he's struggling a bit now. That allows Gary Neville through for 8th. But yeah, Lime Mitch, if he's a bit more consistent, he'd be up there battling with Whitmore for a podium, I think, because he's got some very nice pace in that thing. He's just got to keep it on the grey stuff. And back at the lead, we've got Brendan Ross. He's got a fantastic run on Ricky Slick. Once again, Ricky Slick late on the brakes, but too late on the brakes. Ross only just managed to pull it up, but Ricky Slick, he had to cut across the gravel and only just managed to get out of it. He's got dirt all over his tyres, and that's allowed Ross now. He's got a couple-second lead now. And, as he makes it very wide at Villeneuve, so he's got a couple-second gap, maybe 1.5. Yeah, there is 1.5 seconds. So Ricky Slick still is within a chance, but he's going to have to put together a couple good laps to catch back up.
So that looked like just pure pressure to me coming into turn 1 there. It looks like Ross had pressure on and Ricky Slick just folded. To me, that's how I see it.
Well, it looked like each lap with Ross gaining. Ross runs wide, and that's going to allow Ricky Slick into the lead, but I think Ross is going to try and gun it, and he does, but that has allowed Ricky Slick back into the lead. But that obviously overtaking maneuver. I think both Ricky had been braking later and later in that first chicane, and this time Ross is just that bit closer, and Ricky Slick tried to brake a little bit later, and that's why he went wide. But Ross actually, he's going to be decent shout into Ravazzi. He's pretty close. He could send it from here, but no.
I think he might be buying his time for that first turn.
Yeah, he's very close. As long as he gets a decent exit, which he doesn't lose the rear end. From here, he should get that move done quite easily, actually.
He's already carrying close to 10 Ks quicker. Look at that.
It's all side by side, shades of Mansell and Senna at Barcelona for a moment there. But Ross into the lead, but can Ricky Slick go around the outside? He's going to try it. They've left. So Ross just a little bit too quick, and Rick just backs out of it. But good racing between these two. Got yellows ahead.
Sam, he's
beached it, and Ricky Slick very close to Ross.
Just as I'm looking through the drivers, we've got we had Miles.
We've got another spinner. Oh, and Ross has almost spun it as well. That's going to allow Ricky Slick a good run coming up to Piratella, and now once again side by side.
Slick on the outside.
And he's just got it done. Now these two, inseparable at the moment.
God, there's a bit of respect between these two.
Yeah, they are going to be driving in the same team, or stable anyway, in the Touring Car Championship. And Ross once again very, very close. Ricky Slick goes defensive into the chicane. And Ross, I think again, he's just going to buy his time and try and get the move done into turn 1 and then hope to hold it for the remainder of the lap.
Looks like Sam has DNF'd, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think he would have been able to get it out of the gravel trap. These cars in this sim, they're very difficult to get out of gravel trap. Big slide there from both drivers.
Had a big slide.
I'm surprised Ross isn't. There we go. He is pulling into the slipstream. Surprised he didn't do it earlier, because this is going to be the final lap when they cross the start-finish line. There it is. Oh, a little bit of a nudge there.
Bit of Supercars love tap.
Yes, I think the slipstream just caught him out there. Once again, side by side into the first chicane, and this time Ricky Slick holds firm. And Brendan Ross is going to have to do it the hard way here. So Ross has got to be thinking it's not close enough at the hairpin. It's got to be either at the chicane at the top of the hill at Varianza Alta. That said, oh, both Slick and Ross once again very twitchy coming out of Toza. But yeah, I think Ross has got to be thinking at the top of the hill at 11 and 12 at Varianza Alta or at Ravazza. They're going to be really the only two opportunities to make a move. That's if Ricky Slick doesn't throw it away himself. But they're going to be side by side coming into Aqua Minerale.
Ooh,
Give each
around the
other
outside.
room.
That's a ballsy move.
He's tried it, and once again, they're still side by side. But Ricky Slick will have the inside, but Brendan Ross is just ahead for the moment. And
Ricky's still side by side.
Now he can switch back. No, he didn't quite turn in early enough, and a big slide. So Ross is going to have to really send it from here if he wants to get the job done. I think Ricky should hold on from here, barring a mistake. But these two have fought it out until the end. Yeah, that slide.
Ooh, big gain under the brakes there.
Could have a dead
Might
heat.
have it on the straight if he gets a perfect exit here.
Oh, he's pushed very hard and got a pretty decent exit. It's going to be very, very close, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
Ooh.
Oh, it's up to the rear wheel.
Oh.
It's not quite close enough. So half a tenth between them. A very, very close and very, very well fought race between Ricky Slick and Brendan Ross. But Ricky Slick just comes out on top again. And he takes
0.06 of a second.
Yeah, very close. And
well, very close racing. That's awesome way to end the race with an overlap, mind you.
Yeah, it was very. I believe that happened at the first round, one of the races in the first round as well. But behind them, Wayne Whitmore distant, and well, he would have had a pretty quiet race after getting past Turmo early on. He finishes in third. River Whisper moves up to, or he will finish in fourth place. So solid effort from him. He finishes in front of, or will finish in front of Luke Joyner in fifth. Luke Joyner was second in the championship coming into tonight's race. And he picks up more points, so he's fifth. And Turmo, he'll be a little bit frustrated with those mistakes, costing him at worst fourth. And he finishes sixth. And Lai Mitch, after an error-strewn race, is going to finish just in front of Gary Neville. Yeah, seventh for Mitch, eighth for Gary Neville, and Glenn Miles a lap down already. He finishes in ninth. And Sam, the only non-finisher. So we'll just go through. I'll just go through the order once again. So we had Ricky Slick half a tenth in front of Brendan Ross. Those two battling it out all the way to the flag. And then we had Wayne Whitmore in third, River Whisper fourth, Luke Joyner fifth, Turmo in sixth, Lai Mitch seventh, Gary Neville eighth, Glenn Miles ninth, and Sam, the only non-finisher. And well, Josh, how'd you find that first race?
Pretty exciting, mate. A bit more exciting than last night's Grand Prix.
It wouldn't take much.
Yeah. Look, just between those two alone, it was a very exciting race. They had lots of passing, lots of respect, which I like to see. A lot of drivers don't have that sort of respect anymore. So, look, very impressed. Very happy with the result. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, we've had a couple of those kinds of finishes in this series so far, so hopefully that continues in races 2 and 3, and we hope a couple of the other guys, obviously we saw Lai Mitch have some very good pace, very comparable to Wayne Whitmore, so hopefully he can get his consistency down pat for the second and third races, and we have obviously a couple cars in a couple battle packs sort of form up through the remainder of the 2 races. But we'll just take a short break as we obviously gather our breaths, have a drink, and obviously get ready for qualifying 2 in about 5 minutes' time.
and Glenn Miles.
Alright, and welcome back. We're at qualifying 2 time now. And we've got Lime Mitch and Wayne Whitmore already out on the circuit, just starting their outlaps. And Lime Mitch, he'll be hoping to sort of replicate the quick times he set in the first race, but this time in qualifying. He'll also be hoping to be a bit more consistent throughout the race, because he did show some very reasonable pace, it has to be said. And Whitmore, he'll be hoping for a little bit better lap time wise in qualifying, and he'll be hoping for a better start, because he had not the greatest start and dropped down to 5th, dropped down a couple of spots off the start line. And looks like he's already dropped back. I don't know if he's dropped back to the pits. No, he's just slowed down just to give himself some space. But Lime Mitch will be the first driver to cross the start-finish line to start a time lapse, so we'll follow him around. Oh, and takes a lot of curb there. Turn 9. In real life, he probably would have, he'd have a very sore backside, and probably would have broken his front wing using the curb like that. But this is a video game. Gets away with it. Just watch from over his left shoulder. This goes through 11 and 12, the Variante Alta. And just about to come down the hill to Ravazza. Ravazza 1, Ravazza 2. Probably qualifying trim, probably want to be braking about 50 metres. Here we go, out of Ravazza, about to start his time lap. If you can put it together, you could see him in 3rd or 4th position, perhaps even more if he's had a bit more time. We'll see. Another thing to remind ourselves is that the track won't be as rubbered up as race 1, so you could see a spin or two as well, as the track isn't quite as rubbered up, a bit more green, a bit slower. Solid start so far for Lime Mitch. Up to the Villeneuve chicane. Down to 3rd, bit of curve, the second part, it's a solid run through there. 30.3 in the first split, not the best, but not the worst either. So a solid start to the lap. Second gear for Toza Hairpin. Coming up to Piratella, one of my favourite corners on this circuit. Got to say, actually, pretty much the entire circuit is a very enjoyable track to drive with a car with downforce. Now, Aqua Minerale, very tricky corner in these cars. It's had a very solid run through there. That is very, very good. 105.1 in the second sector. 34.7 is the split time. And we've got Wayne Whitmore, 10th up in the first sector. Looking at live races. And River Whisper is even quicker, 29.7 in the first split. Mitch now coming to the final two proper corners on the circuit. A solid lap so far. Decent exit. This should be probably around a 45, 46. Either way, would bank a lap. And it is a 146.3. Cut to Wayne Whitmore. He should be the next car to set a lap time here. 34.6 or 34.3 in the middle sector as well. So there it is, 44.8 for Whitmore. I do believe that's a little bit faster than what he set in qualifying one, so he'll be pleased. And River Whisper, who had set a purple first sector, has had a spin in the middle sector, 49.5. That's a good 15 seconds off where you want to be. Which is a bit of a shame, because that first sector of his is a good 5/10 faster than the next fastest. So he's thrown his lap away. And we've had Sam now jump up to P3, so the third time, on a 49.677. Then Glenn Miles, he also had a spin on his lap, 49.6. River Whisper, 2 minutes. Didn't have a solid final sector. Very comparable to Lime Mitch's actually. But yeah, that's been costing him. Now Turmo now up into P2. 1 minute 45.5. We've still got Ricky, Slick, Brendan Ross, Gary Neville and Luke Joyner to set a lap. And we've got Luke Joyner out on the circuit. So let's ride on board. See how he goes about this 4.9 kilometre circuit. Nice and smooth through Villeneuve. 2/10 down in the first split. A little bit wide on the exit there. Probably want to put a bit more lock on. Probably turn in a little bit later, use a little bit more lock, and then get on the power nice and straight. And from 5th to 3rd, eases on the throttle. It's a 4th for the initial part of Aquaman Riley, then down to 2nd. Eases on the throttle again, very easy to spin. Coming out of there, as we've seen so far in the race and in qualifying. 6/10 down in the middle sector, but so far not a too bad a lap so far. A bit conservative through the chicane, but if he was able to maintain the same split time as Whitmore in the final sector, he'd be a 10th in front of Turmo. A little bit wide there, missed the apex at Ravazza 1. Good launch through Ravazza 2 though. Nailed that, nailed the exit to the final corner. Want to do that in the race, and he'd set himself up for an overtake very nicely. He's going to cross the line, 1 minute 45.8, so lost a further 3/10 in that final sector, but still pretty solid lap there from Luke Joyner, and he'll be hoping to remain nice and clean throughout the race. So now we've got Brendan Ross and Ricky Slick leaving the pits. And we've got Gary Neville still in the pit lane, although I do believe he's actually left the pit, so he's not going to be able to set a lap time. So Gary Neville will start from the back of the grid. So he must have left the pits and made a mistake and botched his qualifying. So that's a shame for Gary Neville. He'll be starting race 2 from the back. And that means he'll start the final race from pole position. With qualifying, well, yeah, the qualifying results from the second qualifying session being used in the reverse, or setting the order for the final race of the night, which is the reverse grid race. So we've got Brendan Ross now furiously working his car, reminiscent of Fernando Alonso back in his Renault days in 2004 and 2004, 5 and 6. He'd worked the front end very hard. Worked the front tyres in particular very hard to try and get temperature in them. So these guys just coming to the top of the hill, half a lap away. These two put on a fantastic show at Monza, I believe, as well, where they battled hard for quite a bit. And they've followed that tradition again tonight. So hopefully we get 3 fantastic races between these two. Hopefully see a great qualifying battle once again. Obviously, I think they're separated by about a tenth or tenth and a half in the first session. But Ross just about to start his lap. Nice launch out of Ravazza. Look over the left shoulder. Brendan Ross. These two waiting right to the end of the session where there'd be a little bit more rubber down on the circuit. But I don't think it'd be an amount which would affect their lap times all that much. And a very solid and confident run through Tamburello for Brendan Ross. Up to Villeneuve. Very aggressive downshift. The engine wouldn't like that too much, but it is a qualifying lap. 29.2 in the first, which is up 9/10 of a second. So he's had a fantastic start to his lap. Little bit of a slide coming out of Toza, but so far very quick. Just waiting for a sector time. Ricky Slick 29.4. So he's about a tenth and a half off. And Ross a little bit wide there at Piratella. That would have cost him maybe a tenth or so. Again, very aggressive on the downshift. His engine wouldn't like it too much. Still a nice exit out of turn 10. Coming up to the second set, 1.4 up. Once again, hard on the limiter. First gear. Very squeaky clean run through Marianza Alta. Now down to Ravazza. Ricky Slick setting a purple middle sector, so they're about even. Perhaps Ricky Slick maybe even a tenth ahead, and Ross runs wide there. That's going to cost him time. It's probably going to cost him pole if Ricky Slick doesn't make a mistake himself. All right run out of Ravazza too, though. So this will be at least second position. What time does he set? A 1:43.2. 0.298 Ricky Slick. This is going to be quick. A 43.0. So that little mistake at turn 14 costs Brendan Ross pole position. And Ricky Slick will start race 2 from pole position, and he'll start race 3 from the back of the grid. But as we've seen in all the series that Ricky Slick has run in, he's very good on those first laps and off the start. So once again, these two, not much between them. And looking to rejoin their battles that they've had throughout the season so far. So just to recap once again, the grid order, we've got Ricky Slick on pole position. Brendan Ross will start alongside him. We've got Wayne Whitmore in third, Turmo fourth, Luke Joyner fifth, Eli Mitch in sixth, with Joyner and Mitch in particular fairly close together. But Whitmore, Turmo, Joyner and Mitch, they've got all similar paces. Just going to be about consistency between those four, and hopefully it's all up there and we get a good battle pack behind Ricky Slick and Brendan Ross. And then we've got Sam there in P7. River Whisper, he was another one. He was on for a very solid start to his lap, but mucked up there in the middle sector, so that's why he's down in 8th. But he's got a bit of pace in that thing. Another one to look out for. And then we've got Glenn Miles in 9th, and Gary Neville was unable to settle that time due to some kind of error. So he'll start 10th, but from pole in the reverse grid race. So it's ticked over to the warm-up session. We've got about 10 minutes until race 2. Once again, we'll just take a short break, but we shall be back in about 5 minutes' time. Alright, and welcome back. So, it's ticked over to the race. Just waiting for the drivers to form up on the grid. And, well, while we're waiting, might as well ask Josh. So, mate, we've seen a very entertaining first race, but you also did see a couple quick guys that just made mistakes. What are your predictions? Not that really you can make any predictions, I guess, in this series, but what kind of attempt at a prediction, or how do you think this second race will pan out?
Well, naturally can't be too sure. But just from what I've been looking at, I feel like Whitmore is going to be a force to be reckoned with from the best of the rest sort of perspective. If Ross and Slick make any mistakes, which look is possible, they're very close to each other. They could take each other out if they're not careful, especially with those dives down to turn one. Whitmore, or possibly even, I reckon, Joyner, or even Lime Mitch. Lime Mitch looked very well. He did make a couple mistakes, but if he keeps his head settled and he just focuses on the job, I feel like he could be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I think if he just sort of took the edge off his pace by just a little bit, obviously maybe a tenth or two per lap, he'd find that consistency and he'd probably be up there battling with Whitmore for that final step on the podium. Obviously, with the pace we've seen, looks like Ricky Slick and Brendan Ross are just about untouchable. But as you said, it did battle very, very close, and there was one or two chances at the chicane where it all could have gone wrong for them, but they avoided incident.
It looked a little bit too close at some stages. I was hanging on the edge of my seat there, that was for sure. It was very competitive racing. Like I said before, it was very close. Yeah, a little bit too close for my comfort from sitting in the back seat here. But I believe they look like they're composed enough to understand that it is a 3-race weekend, and they know that they have a job to do. But at the same time, it's not hard for someone to make that slight error, maybe lock that inside wheel, push out wide and push them both off the track. It's not a hard thing, especially in a car like this, where they're so quick. The approaching speed's unbelievable coming to some corners. So it'll be interesting to see. I feel like Wayne Whitmore, if he can just hang on, if he can just hang on to this battle pack out the front, even if he's half a second a lap slower, as long as he's still in the mirrors a little bit here and there, Ross or Slick might feel like they're under pressure a little bit, and it could change the order quite a bit. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen here.
Yeah, that first lap will be very critical, and that start will be very critical for Wayne Whitmore. Obviously, he did get dropped a couple spots, and that sort of compromised his race from then on out. But we'll just, as the drivers come out of the final corner, just go through the grid once again very quickly. We've got Ricky Slick, as you can see, on pole position with Brendan Ross alongside. Wayne Whitmore in third place, Termo fourth, Luke Joyner in fifth, while Mitch will start in sixth, Sam seventh, River Whisper, he'll be kicking himself after a mistake in the middle sector on his lap because he set a very fast first sector. And we've got Glenn Miles in ninth place, and Gary Neville failed to set a time, so he will start in 10th. And we're just about to get underway. I'll just try and find a camera view with some lights if I can. There we are.
Slick and Ross were doing some practice starts in the warm-up, so it'll be interesting to see how they pull off the line here.
One light, 2, 3, 4, 5. And away we go. Looks like Termo once again got a very good start, and he's once again in front of Wayne Whitmore. So Whitmore down to fourth place once again as they approach Tamburello chicane, and Whitmore had to fend off Lime Mitchell's all over the curves. But Whitmore holds on to fourth for now. But Lime Mitch up a spot, Joyner down one spot. Sam having a look up the inside into Villeneuve on Luke Joyner. River Whisper in 8th, Neville 9th, Miles 10th at the lead. Ricky Slick holds onto it for now. The front two just edged away a little bit as Turbo very wide on the exit of Tozer there. And he's going to have to fend with Wayne Whitmore, who probably be, once again, a little bit grumpy after not quite nailing the start, unlike Turbo, who's had 2 absolute rockets off the line so far. In fact, Whitmore, a bit of a mistake there out of Piratella. That's around by Mitch. He's hit the anti-cut curb, and that sent him around. He's half his car on the gravel there. He's lucky to get away with that, and miles behind him, he's also had a spin. But at the front,
Sam looks like he's locked off and come off the track as well.
He has. He's just cutting through the chicane, but at the front, Brendan Ross got a good run out of the chicane, and right behind Ricky Slick. So these guys have resumed their battle from race 1. And Brendan Ross is going to have a very good shot into turn 1. He's very close, and we have seen the slipstream play a very big part down this big straight into the first chicane. Slick makes him go around the outside, almost touched there. And Slick on the defensive, breaks a little bit later, and a little bit of a lock-up, but holds on for now.
He's had a cracker run out of there. He's right behind him.
And Slick defensive early into Villeneuve. That's going to compromise him a little bit. And Ross might be able to get him on the switchback into Tozer. Can't quite nail the exit, and Ricky Slick holds on for now. Behind them, we've got Whitmore all over the back of Turmo, with Luke Joyner keeping watch. And all a bit wide there from Turmo. I don't know if there was any contact, but either way, he ran a little bit wide.
Big slide from Whitmore there as well. He's compromised his exit, which is now bringing Joyner into play. Now it's going to be a 3-way battle for third.
Yeah, so these 3 all very close together, and they've got River Whisper, who's up 2 spots from where he started. He's 4 seconds behind. If these guys continue to battle like this, he'll probably close in at this rate. But we've got the front 2, and then we've got these 3. And we've had Sam, unfortunately, DNF, so we don't know what's happened there. He's out. We'll stick to this battle between Whitmore and Turmo for now. And I think Luke Joyner might have made a slight mistake there. He stopped just a little bit of time in the middle sectors to these 2. But Whitmore is very almost sailed into the back of Turmo there in Ravazza 1. A little bit of a slide on the exit there for Turmo, but he has pulled a little bit of a gap over Wayne Whitmore in the final 2 turns. But the slipstream will bring Whitmore back into play. He's probably not going to be close enough to turn 1 this time around, but it could help him set a move up into turn 5 and 6.
Oh, big lock-up from the guys up ahead there. They're still battling.
A bit of a twitch through turn 3. You don't want that at that corner.
Wow. Big moment there. Big moment. He was lucky to catch that. That was a bit sketchy. That was very sketchy there.
Cut to it just as he went through it, and I thought for a moment he was going to spear off to the right-hand side, overcorrecting it, but he did hold it.
Oh, he's still twitchy in the back there. He hasn't slowed himself down in the rear. He's still twitching coming out of some of the exits, so which is compromising his exit. So
it's wide there as well. It's just overdriving it just a little bit. I think if you just dialed it back a little bit on the exits, you'd get better runs, obviously down the straights. But he just wants to get on it. Bit of a lead foot, and he's just like, well, I'll get it sideways and I'll deal with it. But I don't think his rear tyres will like it too much.
No, which in turn is actually hurting him for the remainder of the circuit. So I think he just needs to have a breather for a second. He's got a long race to go yet, so he doesn't want to be doing that too often. Just have a breath for a second, have a lap to regather himself, then have another crack at Slick, because I feel like he might be able to catch him here, especially with the insane slipstream down the straight.
Oh, and Whitmore, he was very close coming out of the chicane, but in Ravazza there, at Ravazza 1, I think he just had too much steering lock on while braking, and I think was a little bit caught out from Turmo in front and lost it, spun around, and now he's dropped down to 7th place behind Lion Mitch. So Turmo now, he's got a bit of a gap over Luke Joyner in 3rd, and he'll be hoping not to make a mistake like he did in race 1.
Now that is a big shame. That was going to be a great battle there. Shame to see.
It's a bit of a shame, but hopefully we see Whitmore and Mitch put in consistent lap times, and you just never know how these races pan out. We've seen gaps like this disappear with obviously spins in other races we've had so far already this season, so you just don't know.
Oop, Turbo's had a spin.
So there it is, coming out of Toza by the look of it, so I'll just cut to the replay. They got through Villeneuve all right, jump on board with him.
He's back on the track now. He's back driving again, weaving just to make sure that everything's all right. Seems like everything's all right so far.
Yeah, just a slight nudge in the wall at the rear end, but shouldn't be too badly damaged. But yeah, he just put a little bit too much steering lock on as he applied the throttle on the exit of Toza, and that's what sent him around. So just probably wanted just to unwind or just straighten the steering wheel, because there was no need to have any steering lock on when he accelerated there. And plenty of room on the outside to use. But still, he remains in front.
Who do you feel is the biggest winner out of this so far, with spins from Whitmore?
Joyner runs right. I was about to say it would be Luke Joyner, as we see Brendan Ross at the fastest lap of the race. It's got to be either Luke Joyner or River Whisper. River Whisper didn't set a great lap time in qualifying, but his first split in qualifying was very good before we missed it, but he made a mistake in the middle sector. So here's another one. I reckon as this weekend goes on, I think we'll see him sort of gradually move up pace-wise, and we could see him, obviously, he's a chance of a podium in this race at the moment, but we could see it on outright pace in the next race as well, with Whitmore and Mitch also, and Turbo also having solid pace as well.
Sorry, I'll just cut in there. Just Brendan Ross, that last lap, first and third sector, was setting purples. Fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 43.2.
Yeah, so 4 tenths faster than Ricky Slick, who set his personal best with a 43.6. So these two very, very quick at the moment. A good 2.5 seconds faster than, or 2 seconds faster than the next fastest car on track, which was Whitmore with a 45.2. So these guys are flying. And 13 seconds in front of Luke Joyner. Oh, it was a big slide by Ross coming out of the chicane, but he's sort of maintained that gap to Ricky Slick in front, and he has got a bit of a slipstream, so he's gaining a little bit. He's not going to be close enough into Ravazza, but it is setting him up nicely for another move into the first chicane. In fact, gains quite a lot under braking there.
He needs the perfect run onto the straight here. A little bit of a slide on entry there, though it looks like he's gathered it up.
Yeah, he's going to be close enough.
Very close. This is going to be interesting to see what Brendan Ross is going to do here. Is Slick going to go to the left? He's thinking he hasn't.
No, he's letting him go for now by the looks of it. I thought he was going to go defensive, but then just thought, no, I'll let him have it for now. So Ross into the lead. A little bit of a lock-up. Slick might try and get him on the switchback just after turn 3 here, but he's not going to be close enough. Villeneuve chicane come up. It is too quick on the entry, really, to make a move.
Slick must feel very confident
wide.
In his ability. Oh.
Ross was wide the second part of the chicane. Ricky Slick now trying to make a move. Ross runs wide. Worries him out. Worried him wide a little bit, but Slick didn't get the greatest exit. In fact, that wider line sort of helped Ross's exit a little bit.
Wow.
But Ross defensive.
Got a great run.
He's going to send it. And they're going to go side by side. No contact. They're side by side still.
Just enough racing room there.
And, yeah, Ross just holds on for now, but he's going to have to go defensive into the chicane because there is a little bit of an overlap now between them.
Wow. Very tight.
Oh, their side by side might have been a bit of contact there, but no damage to either driver. Ricky Slick now right behind Ross. Ross will probably go defensive. No, doesn't go defensive, and Ricky Slick's going to just send it. Oh, there's a cigarette paper between them. I don't know if there was a little bit of a nudge, but that has forced Brendan Ross wide. They both broke very late, so I'll just right on board Brendan Ross in the replay for a moment and just see if there was contact. But either way, both of them very late on the brakes.
I will just butt in for a second. Mitch out of from top well, from 3rd to 7th, Lime Mitch in 7th is posting some of the fast lap times of a 1:45.0. That's his fastest lap of the race so far. But it looks like
he's had a spin. I've just cut to him. He's had a spin at the second chicane. He's had an absolutely shocker lap. So he is capable of setting really quick lap times. He set the 3rd fastest lap of the race, but he just can't string 2 laps together.
No, it looks like Turmo is actually, pardon me, they have matched each other now. River Whisperer and Turmo.
Yeah, 46.3.
They're starting to match each other now.
46.3.
Last lap there was a big difference there. I wasn't too sure whether there was a spin or a mistake or something like that. So it just says Glenn Miles has spun. I don't know where on the track. It looks like 3rd sector.
At the chicane at the top of the hill, I think. Looking at the yes, just after that.
And Gary Neville with some problems at the moment.
Oh, he's missing a rear wing. So what has happened? And he's crabbing down the straight. So I'll just try and find it on the replay. It looks like at the chicane as well. What's happened here? No, before the chicane. Let's keep going back. Let's see if we can find it. Coming out of turn 10. Out of Akuin Minerali. Just gassed it up too much. Wasn't straightening the wheel when he got on the throttle. That sent him around. And there goes the rear wing. And he's probably got suspension damage as well.
Not hard to do. 230 odd horsepower. 550 kilo. There's a decent power to weight ratio there.
And especially that part of the track, it is off camber as well, so it's very easy to put it around. So we've got 1.7 now between Ross and Slick, but the battle for third's actually heating up quite nicely. We've got Luke Joyner holding onto it for now, but Luke Joyner has got River Whisper just edging closer, a couple tenths per lap. On the last lap it was about 4 tenths faster, and behind him we've got River Whisper. He was 3 tenths faster than Turmo was 3 tenths faster than River Whisper. So these three, if they don't make mistakes, we'll have these three I think converge probably roughly about the same time, and that'll be right at the end of the race.
Another 3 laps to go so far, so including this lap. I feel like there are, if Joyner doesn't look in his mirrors, he might be okay. Though if he decides to have a look around, he might feel like he's starting to get under pressure, which is definitely the case from our perspective anyway.
Well,
River Whisperer.
He set a very good first sector. Sorry to cut you off. Set a very good first sector, a couple tenths faster, and I think he's just about within slipstream range.
I feel like he might be a threat down the straight if he's able to pull this second sector together, which I think looks like he was a little bit slow through that last turn.
Yeah, it looked like Joyner's had a very solid middle sector and just edged away just a little bit. Oh, and River Whisper's got it too hot at the chicane. He was going to try and do it's almost like a Jamie Whincup sort of save there, but saw the car coming, saw Turmo coming and backed out of it, thankfully.
Jamie at Simmons Plains.
Yeah, the hairpin. He just put his foot on the throttle and straight back onto it.
Might as well keep going. No.
But I don't think that battle's over just yet. Turmo's still pushing pretty hard out there. And he's still going to be a chance to catch up to Joyner if he can just obviously just gain just an extra couple tenths per lap. He'll give himself a chance. The gap between 3.7, so he's probably going to need to gain a little bit more per lap. It's only 3 tenths fast on that last lap. But if you can just edge that up, obviously, well, he's probably going to actually need a second lap now. But it is possible. I think he did set a 45, looking at his times in practice here, 45, no, he set a 44.8. I think that was in one of the practice or qualifying sessions. So he's capable of going faster, but his tyres are going to be a little bit warm this time.
That last lap, Luke Joyner 46.1, Turmo 46.2. So it looks like Joyner is not relaxing out there. He is still pushing hard.
That said, I think he's made a mistake in the first sector because he's lost about 9 tenths of a second to Turmo. 31.5, it was 1.1 actually, so 31.5 for Joyner, wow. 30.4 for Turmo. And Turmo
it looks like he ran a little bit wide there too.
Yeah,
Turmo,
he's just chucking that thing around, using every bit of the track and a bit extra. He wants that podium.
No room to spare. Using up all the curbs too.
Gap down
Even the
to...
sausage.
Oh,
Even the
once again.
sausage curves. Wow, he's really pushing. He's got his eyes set for Joyner at the moment.
He wants P3. He wants a step on the podium. And he'll do anything to get it by the looks of it. He's just on bananas.
Wow, he's using up every bit of road that he can. That's... Wow. Yeah, he's really pushing at the moment. Even using parts of the road that you aren't meant to use. So
It was half a second faster in that middle sector alone. Gap now 1.8 seconds. So he gained about 2 seconds on that lap. And with 2 laps to go, he's going to be in with a shout if he keeps that pace up. As we see, I think there's a car off there.
anything can happen. Still 2 laps to go.
Now coming up to lap traffic. Just trying to... I think that it has to be Lime Mitch and Glenn Miles. So Lime Mitch has had an absolute shocker. So he must have had a couple more spins. And there's Glenn Miles ahead. And it's going to block Luke Joyner just a little bit.
Oh, Ricky Slick, he has spun. He's lost the lead.
He has. So let's just see. Looks like on the exit of Aqua Minerale there. Let's see what he's done. He had a comfortable 2-second lead. Too hot into the second part, and then a little bit of throttle, and around he went. Didn't clip the barrier though. Did the old JV wing cup and kept going, but he's now well behind.
Absolutely devastated. He was at the rate that he was driving. He was definitely set for a podium anyway. A 1 or 2 finish. So just a simple mistake under pressure. Unfortunately, cost him the win at this stage.
Cost him the win.
Possibly.
Unfortunately for Turmo, who was closing in rapidly on Luke Joyner in front, he come across Glenn Miles, who's cost him about a good second in that middle sector. In fact, it's probably a bit more than that, 1.3 seconds. And that's just about killed the battle for third, which is a bit of a shame. Well,
as we have been saying, it was a long race, so looks like they've just started to spread out a little bit now. There's a little bit of a gap between everyone.
A bit of lag from
couple mistakes.
River Whisper there, just warping just a little bit. He'll be kicking himself as well, River Whisper, because he was closing in on Luke Joyner as well for that spin. But we're on the last lap, and Brendan Ross got half a lap to navigate. Looks like he's got a bit of dirt on his tyres, so perhaps he's run wide or cut across a chicane somewhere.
Another little bit of bad news. It looks like Glenn Miles has DNF'd.
Yeah, so that must have happened last lap because it doesn't come up on the replay. But, Luke Joyner looks like he's now got about half a lap to go. Brendan Ross coming up to the final 2 corners. He's got 6.5 seconds over Ricky Slick, who pretty much had it in the bag, but that spin at Aqua Minerale costing him dearly. After Ross himself was right behind Ricky Slick, but made a mistake of his own. But Brendan Ross will get revenge for race 1, and he will claim race 2 here at Imola. There it is, Brendan Ross, race 2 winner. Ricky Slick, be a bit frustrated with that mistake, but still, second place, very solid for him. We've got Luke Joyner, he's got a couple of corners to go, and in fact, might have made a mistake in the middle sector. Well, maybe not a mistake, but Turmo very, very quick, and he's not going to be too far behind. The gap's only 1.8 seconds at the middle sector, but it's not going to be enough. Luke Joyner will claim a podium. And P3, Turmo only 1.3 behind in the end, so he'll be kicking himself about the penultimate lap there. And River Whisper, he'll be another one kicking himself in P5.
He definitely is kicking himself. He just binned himself on the warm down.
Yeah, car is wrecked.
That is ruined. Though, look, congrats to Luke Joyner. That was a great drive for him. He didn't set a foot wrong there, so well deserving.
Well, that's another thing of this series is it's all about consistency. Obviously, in the other Monday night series that we have, the touring cars, we've had some guys that aren't necessarily the quickest end up getting podiums because they just don't make mistakes. And in these cars in particular, without driver aids, if you can go out there and just set a reasonable lap time and not make a mistake, you'll find yourself in the top 4 99% of the time. So, very good effort from Luke Joyner. Termo, River Whisper, and obviously Wayne Whitmore all kicking themselves with mistakes, as will Ly Mitch, who finished 7th in the end. And then we have Gary Neville in 8th. And then the 2 retirements of Glenn Miles and Sam. So, Josh, got to ask. So, who would your
Yeah.
driver of race 2 be? Because it's
Look,
not going to be an easy one, because you did see Ross make mistake. Obviously, Slick made a mistake, and then you've got obviously other guys that drove fairly well,
yes.
but also made mistakes.
Look, I'm split between Joyner and Whisper at the moment. Obviously Whisper made a couple mistakes throughout the race, though. Still ended three positions up from his starting place, so still a fantastic result there. Though I think I'm going to have to give it to Joyner. It was just a fantastic. It was just a quality drive all around. He made a couple places, and he was able to hold off pretty much all the pressure behind him. So, look, congrats to him. I believe he was the driver of that race, man of
Yeah,
the match.
yeah, certainly didn't have the best race one, but certainly very clean in the second. Didn't make a mistake. Come under pressure towards the end, but didn't wilt, and a well-deserved 3rd place in the end. All right, well, we'll just tick it over to the warm-up, but we'll take a short break. I've got to go and sort the grid out for the final race and the reverse grid race of the evening. So we shall be back in 5 or 10 minutes' time. All right, and welcome. We've just about to, well, no, there it is. We've just ticked over to the reverse grid race, the final race of the night. So this will be race 6 of the season. We've had Ricky Slick win 4 of them. He DNF'd in one and then finished second in the last one. But after his efforts in qualifying, in his second qualifying race, second qualifying session tonight, he'll be starting from the back of the grid, as will Brendan Ross. So both those guys will have to not only battle themselves as they have this season, and the 2 races tonight, they'll have to battle their way through the field. And just waiting for Gary Neville to form up on the grid. He'll be starting from pole. Hopefully he does make it in time. We've got a few cars not gridded up at the moment. But we have seen in the past with reverse grid races some interesting results, some incidents and the like, and got a couple of cars not moving on the grid. There we go, finally. Gary Neville gets us underway. Looks like there was a little bit of contact between Sam and I think it was Luke Joyner there. Yep, he's in the black and yellow helmet in the 65 car. There's a few silver cars which all look fairly similar, which can be a little difficult to spot from afar. In fact, I do believe there's 2 high-tech cars which Luke Joyner and Brendan Ross are sharing. Ross with the orange helmet, Luke Joyner with the yellow and black. And we've had River Whisper. He's beached it. He's beached it in the gravel already on the formation lap. So he's managed to get it out. I don't know how, because these things do beach very easy. I think he managed to miss the wall as well. So he was going to start from second on the grid because Glenn Miles left the serve up during the warm-up session. So everybody, aside from Gary Neville, was moved up a spot. But we'll just go through the grid for the reverse grid. And we have Gary Neville starting on pole after he left the pits, but obviously made a mistake of some sort in qualifying, and that enabled him to not set a lap time. And then we've got River Whisper, who had a spin in the middle sector on his lap. He set a 2-minute lap time. And then we have Sam will start in 3rd place. Lime Mitch in 4th. For me, with his pace, he's got to be one of the favourites for this one, but he's just got to be consistent and not make too many mistakes. Luke Joyner in P5. Here's another one. He's nice and consistent again. He's in prime position to grab another podium. But he's got his nemesis from the last race, Turmo, right behind him. And Turmo will be wanting revenge after just falling short there in race 2 of a podium. Behind them, Wayne Whitmore. He'll be hoping to get away at least decently well this time, down in 7th place. And then we've got our race winners in Brendan Ross in 8th, Ricky Slick in 9th. And both of those are pretty good starters, so we could see them move up just even a couple spots going to the first chicane. So Josh, we've seen a couple interesting races so far, but this reverse grid race, it's going to throw up a couple spanners in the works, I reckon. What do you think is going to play out?
Oh, that's a very difficult question at this stage. We've got a lot of quick drivers in some pretty good positions. So I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you what's going to happen here.
Well, we're formed up on the grid. And the lights coming on. 5 lights. No lights, away we go. Looks like Brendan Ross got an absolute cracker of a start. He's split a couple cars and he's going to move up at least 3 spots. So Gary Neville will lead, and Lime Mitch, bit of contact with Sam into turn 1, but Lime Mitch now up into P2. And Sam and Joyner side by side through turn 3. No spinners by the looks of it, which is good to see. But Brendan Ross, who I did say had a good start, only managed to move up 2 spots in the end, had to back off a little bit, and now he's got Ricky Slick right behind him, both of them trying to go up the inside of, I think it's River Whisper there. Not getting it done, but River Whisper runs wide. He's going to give Ross a good run. In fact, he gives Ross the position. So Ross now up into 5th, and he's right behind Luke Joyner in front.
I think Turmo there might have got some damage just coming off that end of turn 1. I'm not too sure at this stage, but just keep an eye out for him. I think he might have received a little bit of damage on the barge board.
Yeah, it doesn't look to be too bad visually. We've had a change for the lead, so Lime Mitch has made his way into the lead. Gary Neville in second, but Sam having a look up the inside, and then behind him, Luke Joyner having a look up the inside. He's had to hit the sleeping policeman and then drifts it on the exit. And that's going to give Brendan Ross probably that position. So Brendan Ross should move up to P4 already. So he's going to be up 4 spots I should say, already on the first lap. And Ricky Slick, he'll be watching, keeping an eye. And he's got very, very late and punted Brendan Ross, and that's also, I think that's also affected Luke Joyner. It has. Luke Joyner's a big loser out of that because his innocent victim wasn't part of either of those two, but was spun into, and that's moved, unfortunately, Luke Joyner down to 9th. But Lime Mitch leads 1.3 seconds over Sam. And Sam has got Gary Neville right behind him. A little bit of a lock-up. In fact, a big lock-up from Lime Mitch. A little bit of a lock-up from Sam. And Gary Neville just keeping a watching eye. They've got a good 4 seconds over Turmo. But Turmo has got a bit of pace over those guys, as we've seen the first 2 races. But Turmo, he's got Wayne Whitmore, who's got the pace to keep up with him, right behind him. And River Whisper also, he's fairly handy as well. Right behind him, and then behind them, there's Brendan Ross and Ricky Slick. So all those guys pretty much exactly where they started, except for Luke Joyner, who's unfortunately caught up in the Slick and Ross incident.
Yeah, a bit of a shame what happened there with Joyner. That was just a passenger in that situation, but thankfully no damage done to that car, so he's still in this race. Still driving around on the track, which is always nice to see. Though, could have been in a better position at this point.
It could be, as we see. Looks like Ricky Slick going to make a move on River Whisper. Whisper goes defensive into Variant's Alta. But around the outside goes both Ross and Slick. Maybe River Whisper just letting them go. Just wants to run a nice clean race because, well, even though it is 11 laps this race, it's about 20 minutes or so long. In these cars, it's actually quite long. Towards the end of the race, as we've got yellows out for some reason, there's Sam out. So Sam has made a mistake. But yeah, I was about to say he drifted out of the chicane there. So what's happened into the Ravazza? But what I was going to say is, even though they're 11 laps long, these races, they're actually quite long in these cars. When the rear tyres get down to about 50%, they're not great to drive. And oh yeah, it's just a massive lock-up at Ravazza for Sam, and he was beached in the gravel trap, and that's him done, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame, because he was up there in 3rd, and he had a little bit of gap over the cars in front. But now Gary Neville, he's got a very angry pack behind him, and we've had Lime Mitch go off in front as well. He'd built up 4.5 seconds over Gary Neville over the last couple of laps, as we see Turmo have a look up the inside at Tozer, and we've seen there goes Gary Neville, goes around. Just got off the throttle and then tried to get back on it when the car's a little bit sideways, and that's unfortunately compromised Turmo as well. So Turmo now, he drops to pretty much the back of that angry pack, and Wayne Whitmore now up into 2nd place, but he's got Ricky Slick and Brendan Ross right behind. And in fact, they're going to go side by side once again as Ricky Slick sweeps in front of Brendan Ross. A bit of a lock-up for Whitmore. And now these guys are about 5.5 seconds behind Lime Mitch, but these guys are a bit quicker.
Just looks like Ricky Slick there has done the fastest first sector of this race at a 29.6. He's also holding the fastest lap of the race so far.
And he's got a good run out of the chicane. He's side by side with Whitmore. Slight overlap. He's probably going to try and send it. Whitmore in the middle of the road. Ross having a look on the outside. Both Whitmore and Slick a bit wide there. Because Ross is also trying to go around the outside, he sort of compromised himself. He had a break a bit early. He might have been able to get the switch back on, but it's not really going to matter because he's got a great run coming out of Ravazza 2, and Got a couple of Ks over Whitmore, but Whitmore has a slipstream, so now he's catching back up to Ricky Slick, and he's going to hold position for now. And Ross has nowhere to go. So Ricky Slick, 5.9 behind Lime Mitch, but Ricky Slick had to deal with, obviously, Wayne Whitmore there. And on that last
Ross, sorry for interrupting there, but Ross right behind Whitmore, right on his gearbox at this stage, even pushing him up that straight.
Oh, and he's forced a mistake. He's forced a mistake, and oh, they've both almost gone round, but they've both saved it, and they're going to have a drag race up the hill towards Piratella. So both of them on the edge. And for now, oh, they're going to go side by side through Piratella, and we're going to go side by side down the hill now.
As this is all going on, we've had River Whisper and Turmo.
Lime Mitch has had a spin as well, so Ricky Slick now in the lead. So it was a big gap between those two, and Lime Mitch once again just overdriving the car. He's made another mistake crossing the chicane at Variant Alta, losing time to Ricky Slick, and now Ross is going to have a good run on him. Behind them, as you said, Turmo is caught up to Whitmore. And those two are going to battle it out. Big lockup from Brendan Ross. And Ross runs very wide. That's going to allow Whitmore to probably sneak past him at the end of the straight. As Ricky Slick, fastest lap of the race, 44.025. And Ross and Whitmore side by side. Ross still has the inside, but he's going to have to make a big dive from there to make it work. The side's better of it. Locks his front left. That's going to be flat spotted. Hopefully his force feedback isn't too high, otherwise his wheel might shake itself off the desk. And Whitmore now back into third place. And they're going to have to contend with Lime Mitch, who's very hit and miss. He's either setting pretty decent lap times or he's going off the road.
During all this, Turmo is now right behind these three. So this is going to be interesting. And along with that, even River Whisper, he's not too far behind. So if anyone forces their hand...
Sorry to cut off, but big dive from Ross into Piratella and a little bit of contact, but he's now back into third place. And as you said, River Whisper, he's not too far away. He's only 1.2 now off the back of Turmo. And then behind River Whisper, Luke Joyner goes around. So Joyner had sort of caught back up to that pack, but that spin there costing him dearly, which is a bit of a shame. He was faultless in the second race, but he's blotted his book there.
River Whisper just went straight through that chicane. Actually, he's taken a shortcut. He locked up the inside wheel, thought better of it. Thought going straight would be the better option.
Yep. And see Turmo running wide at Ravazza 2, almost ended up in the gravel. But managed to get out of it and allowed River Whisper, will allow River Whisper to close up just a little bit. Ricky Slick 43.6, so he's continuing to extend the lead at the front. But these front sort of four cars, in second through to sixth really, giving us a very good show. And Whitmore will be hoping just to stick around. He'll be hoping for probably a Ross mistake, just to get him back within slipstream range, just to hang around, give himself a chance at possibly sneaking into second. And we've got yellows out, don't know why.
There's a Neville on the side of the road.
Oh yes, it looks like he's Mr. Wing there. It's pointing the wrong way. So unfortunately, it's a second DNF, and Lime Mitch has ran wide at the exit of Toza, and that's given Turmo a very good run coming up to Piratella. Mitch goes for the inside, runs a bit wide on the exit, but Turmo didn't get on the front early enough to make him pay. Once again, defensive all over the place is Lime Mitch. He doesn't want to give up P4. Oh, and both of them almost spinning it once again. Both getting it sideways out of turn 10. Both just holding on. Turmo using a lot of the curb at the chicane. He's going to be certainly within passing distance. Both of them just clipping the grass there. Down the straight. Tutumo having a look. Just shows the nose, doesn't go for it, but loses the back end just on the throttle. He got on the throttle while he had steering lock, and he's going to try and J-turn it. He's not been successful, but he's had a crack. So he's probably going to lose. He might lose out, and he will lose out to Luke Joyner. So Luke Joyner now moves up to P6. And River Whisper now, he's up to P5. And he's been nice and clean so far as River Whisper. Doesn't quite have the pace of the guys around him, but he's driving well. As Lime Mitch is not going to have a very clean race suit after this one. And
there's a couple meanings to that one there.
Yeah, and River Whisper now right behind him. The gap between Whitmore and Ross has really ballooned out. 44.6 on the last lap for Ross and a 45.5 for Whitmore. And then in front of them, obviously Ricky Slick continuing to eke out his advantage, and Ross, very wide there. In fact, that'll probably be a track cut. Bit of track extending there. Bit of a lock, so we cut back to River Whisper. Bit of a lock up from Mitch in front. Mitch in the middle sector. Looks like he's just edged away just a little bit. But I think if Whisper keeps it on the black stuff, he'll probably find himself in front of Lime Mitch, who unfortunately has made quite a few mistakes in both these races. But if there's ever a time to frustrate someone you're racing, it would be right now. And for him not to make a mistake and to stay in front of River Whisper. Okay.
No offense to Lime Mitch there, but he hasn't had the cleanest of races this week, and he's been. I'm not too sure if he's just not focused on the situation, or he's feeling the pressure, or he's a little bit hot-headed. But he hasn't been keeping that car clean. He's got a quick car underneath him. He's a great little driver, but he hasn't been able to keep it on the tarmac the whole time. Yeah,
it's just those little mistakes, and in these cars, and especially around this track, a little mistake usually ends up in a spin. There's, as you'll know, there's not too big of a window with these cars. You get it slightly out of that window, and they don't give you much opportunity to get it to obviously get it back and make it safe. So, and he's found out the hard way, but gone a couple laps without a mistake at the moment, so he's doing all right, and hopefully for our sake he keeps it up, and we have a good battle between himself and River Whisper to the finish.
I'm not too sure whether that's going to happen right now. He's just come up with a mechanical problem just on my screen here. I'm not too sure whether it's coming up on your screen with that.
No, I don't have anything on my screen. Is it just a cog? Because if it's just
a cog.
Yeah, that's just a pit stop icon. So perhaps the game has auto-assigned his pit stop and it's come up. Or perhaps he's not put enough fuel in and he has to pit. Hopefully that's not the case, because I don't know if you can actually refuel these cars off the top of my head. So if that is the case, he might find himself DNFing.
Yeah, well, they're not easy to refuel. You actually have to take the back engine cover off, and they're hidden right down the centre. So centre of the engine. So if he is needing to refuel, he might be there for a while.
And River Whisper had a fantastic run out of the chicane. Is that all? Yeah, Lime Mitch is entering the pits. I reckon that's what he's done. I reckon he's underfueled, and I don't think you can refuel these cars. Yeah, his engine's off. I think he's out of fuel. So he finally put a few laps together without a mistake, and unfortunately for him, he's then ran out of fuel. So tragedy for Lime Mitch. He's changing tyres. I'm not sure if you can refuel these cars. I don't think you can, so we might see him DNF, which will be a shame. And that was unfortunately our closest battle on the track. So
he's moving once again.
That might be. There is a feature in this game where if you are in the pit lane and you press the accelerator, the pit crew, virtual pit crew will move you. So perhaps that's
no worries.
Perhaps that's what's happened there. And yeah, he's DNF, so he's pretty sure he's ran out of fuel. I don't have the screen in front of me, but most likely that is what's happened. So with about 3 laps to go, Just a little recap. We've got Ricky Slick in the lead. He's got 3.1 seconds over Brendan Ross, who was 7/10 of a second faster on that last lap around. So if he continues that pace up, he might make it an interesting finish. But he's still probably hoping for a mistake from Ricky Slick in front, which obviously Ricky Slick did make in that second race. So he'll be hoping for another one. You've got Wayne Whitmore in third place. Another quiet race for him, very similar to his first race after action-packed start. He's found himself with a big gap in front, big gap behind, but still valuable points for the championship. And then we've got River Whisper now. He's up to fourth. He's got a little bit of lag there, but he's done a solid job in this race. He let both Ricky Slick and Brendan Ross go earlier on in the race. Didn't want to fight him, which was pretty smart in the end. Didn't cost him time, and it brought him into play when Termo, Whitmore, and Lyle Mitchell were battling. So pretty smart on his behalf. Hasn't had a very good lap there, 54.3. So he's had a spin somewhere. Looks like in the first sector. But still, he's in fourth place. Behind him, he's got Luke Joyner, who was unfortunately caught up in an incident between Ricky Slick and Brendan Ross. And there's the innocent victim got hit on the side coming out of a corner as the other two were battling it, and that dropped him to last, but he's kept going out there, and now he's 11 seconds in front of Termo. And only 3.5 seconds off fourth place. So if he keeps it up, perhaps a mistake from River Whisper in front, he could find himself up another spot. But he's doing, once again, a nice solid job. And then we've got obviously Termo there in sixth place, who has been higher, but trying to remember what happened. I think he had a spin coming out of turn 10, which has dropped him down the field. And just looking at the gap between the two leaders, it is down to 2.9, but Ricky still a little bit faster on this lap. 44.2, and Ross actually 0.2 faster. That's not going to be enough. So Ricky Slick starts the final lap, and he just has to take it easy. But you don't want to take it too easy in these cars, because when you do relax, and you might obviously just take your foot off the throttle for just a split second too long and send the rear end around. So you've got to concentrate the whole way. The gap 2.5 seconds. So Brendan Ross, another couple tenths in the first sector, but he's not going to be close enough, I don't think.
You can't relax in these cars. They're made to go quick, that's for sure.
Yeah, you got to drive them hard. And the gap between next closest battle on track is between River Whisper and Joyner, 3.5 seconds. So that race has petered out after a very frantic start, which is a bit of a shame. But the gap actually now down to 2.2 seconds. So another couple tenths. Let's see what it is when they cross the second split line, 1.8. I think Ricky's just taking it a bit easy. And probably teasing Brendan Ross here just towards the end.
Well, he did have a nice cushion there, so it is understandable. You don't want to be pushing right to the last corner, then fall off the track and lose it. So
well, he's got one.
I understand where he's coming from.
Yeah, he's got one corner to go to not make a mistake, and he's not done it. So the gap has come right down. It's going to be about a second as they cross the start-finish line. But Ricky Slick will take 2 from 3. Take races 1 and 3. And Brendan Ross will take second place. So he'll take a win in 2 seconds. Both of them a class above everybody else. With Wayne Whitmore will finish a comfortable 3rd place.
Wow, I will just let you know, Brendan Ross did hit the fastest lap of the race on that final lap, a 1:43.4. So about 2 tenths quicker than Ricky Slick.
Yeah, so Ricky Slick might be a little annoyed with that, having that fastest lap just taken from him right at the end. And River Whisper takes 4th place. Nice solid drive from him. Luke Joyner, he was a bit closer before the start of that lap, and Termo was a bit further away, so I think he made a mistake somewhere, and well, he's showing his disgust by completely totaling his car. Termo does the same thing. Bang, and there we go. He's frisbeeing through the air, and he finished in P6. Just once again, just little mistakes costing these guys. But you put it all together and you end up with a good result, as Wayne Whitmore and obviously Joyner in the second race found out. So with 3 races gone, and obviously Josh, this is your first time in the commentary box. How would you think this first night of racing's gone?
Look, mate, those starts, they're unreal. They obviously the race pans out towards the end, from what we've seen. But look, it's fair racing across the board. So, look, I really enjoyed it. I thought those starts were great fun. They were great fun to see, seeing all the cars bunched up. Everyone leaving no room. There was no room for friends there. So, yeah, look, it was really interesting to see. It was really good fun to be in the com box today.
Well, it was certainly great to have you, and obviously you've driven one of these cars, so it's always good to have someone have a little bit of insight into obviously the cars that we're talking about. But more on the racing, obviously with the 3 races we've had, who would you say that would be, I guess, your driver of the round? It doesn't have to necessarily be the fastest driver, but just someone that just put in a solid effort and did a good job.
Oh, look, there was a few drivers I'd like to mention, but um, I'd have to say Ricky Slick. Despite him being 2 of 3 winner race winnings, I'd say he was. I would say he was the most consistent. He was the cleanest. Um, he seemed to really pull everything together, so to say. So I feel like I would call him my man of the match.
Yeah, he's certainly had a very, very good weekend, a very good start to his season, taking I think that's now 4 out of the 6 wins available, and in 2 of the races tonight, it was pretty much untouchable, nicking it at the end or towards the end in the first race, and then in the second race he did make a mistake, but that was really the only mistake he made all night. Was able to pick his way through the field cleanly in that reverse grid race, and was able to stretch a lead when Brendan Ross was stuck behind some slower cars. So he did all he had to do and did it magnificently. But obviously Ross and Ricky Slick probably obviously the top tier of this series. But I have to say in the second tier it was very, very close between a number of the drivers. And Luke Joyner in particular, nice and clean. And piss off Siri. And River Whisper also showed some signs of maturity there in that third race. So some good racing all around. I know we do have Ricky Slick and Brendan Rose in the TV time, but we won't cut to interviews this time out. We'll leave that for next time. But for those that have joined us, obviously thanks for tuning in. Next week we do have the return of the Touring Car Championship starting from Goiânia. That will be season 3, so that's the next, obviously, first round of season 3 of the Touring Car Championship. And on Thursday, I do believe we have the Super 2 series from Phillip Island that will be hosted by Nether and Friends. And on Sunday night, we have, I do believe we have a Formula 1 race. We have the Formula 1 2019. Just trying to work out the find the circuit where we're racing. I can't remember, even though I did the calendar. Yes, we are at Barcelona at the modern version with the chicane. So we do hope, obviously, those that are interested sign up for the Formula 1 series. We do hope that people tune in on Thursday night for the Super 2 series, and we hope people obviously come along, watch, participate next Monday in the Touring Car Championship. So from myself, Lewis Wedding, and from I'll just call you Josh. I won't attempt your last name again, but
it's just the same as the first name, Josh Ben.
Josh Ben. So obviously from us, thanks for tuning in, and we hope to catch you next time. Cheers.